Hello.
Hello.
Have to
Long time
watch
no
the
see.
timer. I know. We spent the whole morning together. We're
So
we're
funny.
creating like 3 different podcasts in one session, which we
I'm
decided
loving
to
it.
change this, yeah, and reduce our podcast time to 30, and it's been wonderful. It's been
Yeah,
so good.
I think it's like the perfect answer. It's so interesting, and I sound like a broken record, but you know what? Maybe I just need to keep repeating it. Who knows? But it's been something that I've just really, really sat with over the last several weeks. Tress has mentioned it herself. Just where am I spending my time? Where is my presence? Like, what am I doing? And, I feel like things that and also part of this too is like healing a wound for me of like productivity equals worth or productivity equals value. I need to be busy or I need to do all these things. Also, it's been like when I am doing things or giving my time, am I balanced with how I'm giving it? Like, where's my boundaries? Like I can't burn myself out. Like, it's not, I think about like a candle burning at both ends. Like, that's not funny. It's not cute. That's actually bad. Like that's not good. That's just not aligned for, anyone really. And the last several weeks, I've really evaluated, okay, my time am I giving the right amount of time either? Right. And so, like, I feel like the podcast before always worked out, but were we giving it the right energy and time and space? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I think for that time it was. But in order for us to evolve and move to the next level, it needed a reevaluation. And this has been great. Like, I like doing it this way. I feel that I knew, I guess I say it like this, like, I'm going into this space for me. I'm going into this space knowing this is exactly where my time is going. This is exactly where my attention is going. This is where I'm meant to be in this space. And I'm bringing my absolute best in this moment and in the space. I'm not worried about if Jim Bob's cooking or if I need to hurry and run to another meeting or if I need to go to the gym. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like all the little tiny things. Like I'm being fully present in this moment with Tressa and we blocked out this time and I feel like this has been the best episodes that I've done in a long time these last couple and I feel like, we're not killing it or not, I mean like killing the time and killing the energy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like where this is I'm here in the now and I'm in this moment what's been really cool is nobody's really texted me either. I
Yeah.
had one phone call, but like they didn't know what I was doing. And so like that was it. But do you know what I mean? Like just nothing. Like it's been a very quiet, dedicated space. And I really enjoyed it. And especially coming from all the other bullshit we do every day and have to manage. I've really enjoyed it. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the gifts that I think, being having to step away from the podcast, there wasn't an option, and I feel like it's a gift that we were given that we didn't even know we needed. That's the way I take it, is to have that time off to reevaluate because
Mm.
it was pretty quick. I mean, it was immediately, like, the first episode we did coming back where, you had brought up the concept of shortening them and we just brainstormed this stuff, and I feel like it's absolutely where it needs to be. So that was one of the other gifts. My mom, it's interesting, she talks to me from the other side all the time and, or whatever you wanna call it, whatever dimension she's cruising around in, and she never really listened to our podcast, but she's talked to me a little bit about the podcast in the fact that she her transition and her illness gifted us the time to reevaluate. You know, consciously or unconsciously,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't conscious for me. It was probably unconsciously for me personally. I didn't sit there and think, "Oh, this is giving me the time." But as soon as we got
Yeah.
back, it all flowed,
Mhm.
right? And without that time, we would have continued to do what we were always doing.
Yeah.
And, for me, there were it always did work out. You're right, we always found the time, but sometimes it was like, I didn't have enough time to reset. I was going from
Yeah.
one thing to the other.
Couldn't the other.
And since we've been back, I really feel like I have been able to be more present in the dialogue and the conversation and the energy that we wanna create.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited about it.
Me too. I
Yeah.
agree. Well, folks, so this episode, I I don't know. I had a reading a couple weeks ago. Another reading I mentioned on the other episode of a reading. Again, I like to. This is what I like to do in my free time. This is my self care.
That's right.
I had a reading. There was an You know what? I'll just say I don't care. If you listen to the podcast, I had a reading with Becky Condos. And so am I saying her name right? Condos?
Fondest.
Condos. Okay, yeah. So
Yep.
Becky Condos, sorry, Becky. I do this. I get really nervous around names and I butcher them publicly a lot.
She does
So
sometimes. It's all good.
yeah, like I can't help this. So whatever. But shout out to her. Go find her book a reading because it was great. But a piece of that reading that I had during that, well, first I guess I'll say I saw her Facebook and she had posted about it, so she was led to post and I was led to follow, and I did it. And so whatever, go get with her and get a reading. And in the reading, a lot of things were shared with me. And it was one thing, though, that was shared with me that I mentioned to Tressa that I think was part of an ancestor identifying themselves to me, but it stayed with me. And it was a very like interesting symbol because it's like an ancient symbol. And I was like, that's so weird. I've never, and I had used it in an emoji. I had messaged a coworker and I used it in an emoji, and I've never used this in an emoji. Like, I cannot tell you a time in my life that I've randomly sent this emoji, and I had used it in a context that referred to the same symbol, and it was identified like right away. And I had just sent it maybe 15 minutes before the call. Like it was like boom, boom, boom. And when it was a symbol of an image of a spiral. And, and so it was really interesting because like I'm not drawn to spirals. When I think of spiraling, I think of like me and my mind going down a deadly rabbit hole of shit, or like my emotions or my anxiety spiraling. Like I haven't really thought of a spiral in a positive way in a long time. I don't know. I just like, I didn't even, I don't know. So, what this reading has gifted me, one, it gifted me confirmation and context of the ancestor coming through, but it's gifted me a perspective around the symbol of a spiral. And once I had this reading with her after the fact, I keep getting served on Pinterest, and I don't think I looked it up on Pinterest. I don't know. I have this, insatiable thirst to learn. I need to know everything. I love information, and it's just who I am. And I like to have the like, what does a spiral mean type context, or what could this mean energetically, or what does it mean not energetically, right? And then I take my intuition and then I kind of build what I want to build around it. And that's just how I do with everything, especially symbols. And on Pinterest, I don't even know. Instead of scrolling, I try to get on Pinterest now, and I look at like, sometimes I look at like the way outfits are put together. I don't know. Or like there's inspirational quotes, or there's
Yeah.
whatever. Like, everyone knows what Pinterest is. And my Pinterest algorithm is very curated. It is a mix of very metaphysical content and a lot. Look, see, there's some another confirmation. And it also has a ton of like, I don't even know, like outfits based on my zodiac. I don't even know. So there's a lot of like shit like that on mine. They have pegged who Myra is as a person. And every day it is a fucking spiral. In this like all of the content being served to me on Pinterest has a form of a spiral. And also in this reading, another ancestor tried to identify themselves. I'm still got a question mark around this person, but they kept showing seashells. And I am going on a beach trip in July. I do believe that it holds significance in that trip. I'm going to the beach, and there's some transitional things in my life, and I do believe I will receive confirmation on this trip. I also had a tarot reading back in January because, again, I like to blow money on reading, but I don't know. I enjoy this shit. It's fun. And I had paid, it was like, I don't even know, an Etsy tarot reader, whatever. And I liked it. I felt inspired to do it. And no lie, they said something similar. Like July held a significance, and they kept seeing road trip imagery when they were doing the reading and the write up they sent me. And then Becky also referred to what's happening in July. And then this ancestor showed seashells. So who knows, guys? I will report back. Who the fuck knows what's happening in
Yeah.
July? Because I don't. Something significant, and I will know. So I do know that. I will know when it happens and what confirmation comes through. So to tie this together, the last image that I saw on Pinterest was the image of a spiral, but it was the image of a spiral in the form of a seashell. So I don't know. This is where you take intuition, or you take like, does this go together, or what? But I think it's very interesting in the same reading, a spiral and seashells were shown to me. And then a spiral and a seashell can also coexist in the same form depending on the type of shell. You think about like the little shell going like that, or whatever. What, I don't even know what kind of shell that is. Like, I don't know the name. But so I really wanted to talk about the symbol of a spiral, the symbol of like the meaning of a spiral. And to kick it off, the coolest thing about it is that like I've gone through a ton of transformation, right? Like I've gone through a lot of things I've shared on the podcast. There's been a lot of change in my life. It's all been for the better. But I just want to start this conversation off with the difference between a circle and a spiral, right? Like a circle, you're just going in the same loop, you're going in the same direction, you're in the same cycle, you're in the same phase or whatever it is, you're just spinning around and around, right? A circle is whole. And the difference with the spiral though is you break out of the circle and then you start transforming out, right? It can go out. Also, the spiral could go in to self. Like there are many, many ways to interpret the symbolism of a spiral. And I just found it very interesting. So, whatever that was given to me has been just constantly coming up for me. And so, yeah, I thought it would be a good episode.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I was thinking about the energy of a circle as well, and a circle is part of a spiral, right? I mean, it is part of a spiral. You talked about the circle, like there could be an energy. Sometimes when I work with clients, I get the image of a hamster wheel. And that's what energy you're referring to is
Yeah.
you can't get off the hamster wheel, right? But I think there is power in the energy of the circle in the spiral itself
Yeah.
because it is part of that, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that I think we need to use right now, and one of the things that several metaphysical teachers that I follow have been talking about in kind of playing off of what just happened in our Metatron energy reading, what with like this new earth energy is things will be think about the energy of the spiral of a
Hmm.
circle, right? It's forever. There's so many symbols that we use right now, right? Women sit in a cyclical circle of healing. The wedding ring, it means that everything's affinity, right? Nothing is ever stopped. But right now, think about what most of our homes look like. This is not by chance. We're in boxes and it's energetically stopping us. So I think about the spiral or the softness to a spiral. There's no hard edges, right? So, like, one of the things I've been doing energetically is I've been softening my entire home. I've been softening my entire energy because I don't want to be in a box anymore. I don't want to be controlled. I
Yeah.
want it to be in that spiral energy of movement.
Hmm.
Because when you have a spiral and you think about, I when you were talking about seashells, when I was in Canada last May, I was on the beach collecting seashells, and whether they were flat, they had that energy on them, right?
Hmm.
The spiral energy, or I found one that was like long and all the spirals came down.
Yeah.
And again, thinking about how nature can teach us, I think there's really a lot of power in that energy. When you said you want to talk about spirals, I was like, yes, because I've been using that same energy. I've been called to use that same energy right
Yeah.
now. I've
Hmm.
been called to teach about that energy. And I think about like, sometimes I say this word wrong, mandalas. Think
All the
about the
mandalas.
energy
Yeah.
of a
Hmm.
mandala. I used to have
Yeah.
one painted in my energy room. My good friend
Hmm.
painted it. Everything in that is spirals. Everything
Yeah.
in that imaging is spirals and circles,
Hmm.
right? I think the detriment to it is what you started with. The hamster wheel is not what we wanna
Yeah.
use. We
Hmm.
wanna let the circle or the spiral energy
Evolve.
flow,
Hmm.
evolve. Yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah, and it's almost like a to me, it's sacred geometry. It's an image of
Yeah.
I mean, that is we're gifted with these images and this sacred geometry and the power within that. So it's really cool that this has been showing up for you in many ways. It's speaking to you.
Yeah. It hasn't stopped.
No, it's not
It's like,
stopping.
yeah, it's like, "Learn, lady.
Yeah.
You need to, see this." Yeah, it's so cool because like, I think about, like, evolution, expansion, the expansiveness of, like I think even think, like, We sometimes circles can feel protective, and I love I like circle imagery. I think that there's opposition in all imagery, right? And symbols and
Yeah.
like the way we can look at things. But I think about like sometimes a circle when we're in circles or when we're in this cycle or the hamster wheel, it's a form of protection, right? And so when you step out of it, that's when you're evolving in the evolution of coming out of it, or you could be going back into self. Like if you've left self,
Yeah.
like I started with. And I think that, like, the circles protect us in a way, and the only way we can evolve or grow is when we return to center or we exit or we expand and grow or we let go or we sit. We talked about it in the Metatron episode about sitting in the uncomfortable and being in the uncomfortable. And then what happens when you sit in the uncomfortable? You grow, you learn, you evolve, it's that outward momentum. And what I speaking of momentum, I love the spiral because it's movement and I love movement.
Yes.
I'm a movement person, like I've said it many, many times, like stagnation is not my thing. And so the feeling of a spiral is that there's movement happening, like it's not same samesies, but I love what you said about the softness of it. And it's honing into the softness of the energy where it's not stopping in those hard edges. It's not rigid, it's in flow. Water moves, the waves have like a spiral look to them, like when they come out and then they crash in, right? Like think about your fingerprint. I actually found it really
Yeah.
interesting. Tressa was talking in the Metatron episode, which is the one before this, where she mentioned like the eye of a storm. And like a spiral is the eye of like the storm. Like there's the eye of the storm, like a hurricane is a spiral, or you think about a tornado is a spiral. Like there are just so many ways that nature can show us this image. And you think about in the center of self, the center of calm, the center of like who we need to be, who we need to ground into. But like once it's cleared out, like there's usually something that comes from it, right? Like after the spiraling, that's the clearing and the movement of it. A storm doesn't just stay, it keeps moving and like it keeps going, and then eventually it ends, right? Like there's some
Mhm.
form of an end to it. And then you move into the next whatever, whereas a circle, there is no ending. So, like when you think about that part of growth and movement, I feel like it was really cool to study more into a spiral lately about like more of that movement.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. I wrote down a couple of things that I felt like a spiral did. I mean, because I can't, because there is a cyclical energy to it. It's not a steady circle by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt like it's a sacred space
Mhm.
to be in that energy. I feel like it's a protective space. To me, I wrote down unbreakable, like because there is no hard edge, right? It's just this softness flowing. And I think about the words as you were talking, like I use this a lot when you're in the flow state,
Mhm.
how easy life is.
Mhm.
And that's the energy of a spiral to me, is
Yeah.
flowing, right? It's allowing the energy to flow where it needs to flow for your highest good without these hard edges coming into it, right? And I, like, drew a spiral on my paper just to kinda remember the imaging of what a spiral
Yeah.
is. But protection kept coming to me. I wrote it on 2 different pages, so it's definitely something that I believe this energy is here to help us with. And like I said, I've been inspired to, like, soften my home's edges, you know, and maybe this is a conversation I needed to not just make it cyclical, but to allow it to be more of that soft edge of the spiral.
Spiral.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm gonna change that up. Start doing that.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that. I actually like the idea of it. I think I love that you brought up home and like the just specifically home because like I thought so much about self, like me, body, my physical body self in the spiral, but I love the concept of like the home and like I actually today I have a lot of different versions of what people the term would be an altar. So, like, I have different versions of things that I arrange in my home, whether it be a crystal or whether it be a bowl. I'm being gifted a Buddha from Tressa, and I told her I already had a place in mind because today I had arranged the energy in my home. So today I had specifically, like, I placed a new crystal beside my fruit bowl, for example. You know what I mean? Like, I just put some, like, little energetic touches around my home today. And so I love, like, when I am going around with incense or whatever, or like my intentions, or when I'm going around with these items, thinking about softening the edges of it versus, like, homes are built in fucking squares and shit, right? Like, instead, or rectangles and like whatever. And really being more in that mindset as I'm going back and honoring these objects or places or altars or whatever, these dedicated spaces and touches in my home, because I love that. And I think about, like, even when you cleanse, for example, like if you use sage or if you use incense, whatever it is, like you go counterclockwise. And as I do it, it's not always a circle. I move in like a spiral, kind of like to remove something. And then you go clockwise to call something in. And, like, when you think about, like, drawing in the energy, like, calling it in, I don't always move in a circle. Like, I think about, like, the way that it naturally ends up coming in, it forms in more of a spiral. And so I really like that. I didn't think about that perspective in the form of a home space. And so that was really, I'm gonna use that. So thanks.
Yeah, of course. I think it's, we take things, I don't know if the word's for granted, or we don't think about things, and everything is has a purpose. And similar to what I was talking about in the Metatron reading around the control and the fear, that's why things were designed the way they were. Our homes are boxes, jobs are boxes. They had these harsh edges. And so the more we can change that energetically, and I believe in the future you will see things being built much differently. They will be more in a spiral energy or circular
Yeah.
energy or softer
Or
energy.
curves. Yeah,
Yes, or
some
curves.
form. Yeah.
Because think of feminine energy, it's curvy, where the power is, right? And so, what you could do now is energetically start to shift those things and use this sacred geometry with intention, and that's all you have to do to shift that, right?
Mhm.
So, I got chills. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of this topic ever, although I've been using it, and I've learned a
Yeah.
few things just from this whole conversation, right, that I'm going to shift for myself in what I'm doing. And so I have no doubt that this message needs to get out there, not only for you and I, but for others, because there's so many things at our fingertips to use. It's just up to us to use them, you
Yeah.
know? And this spiral energy, I think, is going to be a powerful tool for people to start to play with,
Yeah.
myself included.
Yeah, 100%. And so I'm grateful for Becky for that and gifting me with that, because, like,
Yeah,
as simple as it was, even if it came through as just a confirmation tool, it's totally served me in many, many ways. Like,
Mhm.
it hasn't, I mean, the session was a week ago, like, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. And, it's just really stuck with me. And I journal after every session I have a reading, or after, if I pull tarot, or if I pull oracle cards, or if I have long meditations, I usually journal after them. And so it was just something that, like, I wrote down immediately. Like, she told me a whole bunch of other shit that was
Yeah,
extremely great and valuable and important. And I'm like, that was just too synchronous, or there was just too much of a synchronicity there. Like, there was just too
yeah,
much, and I never have ever, like, I don't use that, and I publicly posted it in, we call it Slack, or it's a Slack channel, like Teams or whatever, and I used it, and I just don't usually gravitate towards that, and now it hasn't stopped. So, like, I needed it, so I'm grateful for her for gifting me the perspective, because I
yeah, and I think
wouldn't
what's
have thought of
cool
it.
too is, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, it sounds like it's really showed up for you clear back in that, one of your first readings months ago, and then I think the confirmation's cool when you start to see it in, you know, like on your Pinterest, on your social platforms, in
Oh,
other
yeah.
ways. It's
Yeah.
like the universe keeps talking to you,
Mhm.
like, "Yes, this has meaning, yes." And I think it's really cool that, our ancestors are there to help us. You know,
Yeah.
they're part of our DNA, they're part of our consciousness, and it's cool that it came up again as a confirmation for whoever she was channeling through to you,
Yeah. It was my
and
dad.
it's yeah,
It was Greg,
yeah. Good old
but
Greg, just
old Greg.
bringing in the spiral. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really cool, you know, and so I
Oh.
get chills everywhere on my back because, like, similar to what I was talking about in the Metatron episode was I was playing around with something and didn't have a full scope. You were the person to get the message and share it. Like, that's the power of what's happening. Like, you were the one t to be given that message to give to others, and one, it's a gift for me, and it will be a gift for people who listen to this episode. And what thank God you're willing to do it. You know, thank you, because what a tragedy it would be to hold that back and not recognize, you know, you could have just dismissed it like, "Okay, whoop-de-doo, it's a spiral," but you didn't, and I think
Mhm.
that's really cool, and more people have to speak that
Yeah.
because they may not quite get it yet, but, like, immediately it helped me understand what I need to shift when we started to
Yeah.
talk about it. So,
Yeah, I thank you for
thanks,
that, and
Greg.
I
Thanks, Myra.
yeah, thank you
Thanks,
all.
Becky.
I mean, so much gratitude. Well, I'm gonna just add a cherry to this. It just hit me, like, I have just
Okay.
the download immediately. A couple weeks ago, or it's been almost a month because I usually do body work every month, and my dad came through at that session of body work, and I think I mentioned it maybe on a couple episodes ago that he usually shows up. My birthday again falls on Father's Day. If this is your first episode listening for whatever reason, welcome. But Father's Day and all these fun party things, right? He'll show up. He comes around, especially around Father's Day. And he had come in the bodywork session, and I was like, she received the download and she's like, listen, your dad was sitting there and he was eating, you were eating ice cream, a cone of ice cream,
Uh-huh.
and it
Yeah.
fell and he gave you his. And I think that there were symbolism there I needed to take to of like the giving and receiving and love and the devotion. And there's a whole lot of lessons there. Anyways, but today in this moment, it was a cone of ice cream. If you get soft serve cone ice cream, when I thought of the
Yeah.
ice cream, it was the soft serve. It was not like
Yeah.
a scoop of ice cream. So
Spiral.
that spiral.
Mhm.
And so I think that's actually wild came to me. So like maybe in that moment I wouldn't have heard it or thought about it or done it, and I wouldn't, or like took it in the same capacity that I needed to hear it in. And then I had just felt really inspired and called to set up a session with Becky, and I felt like so Becky does I mean, it's part of her services. She does mention sometimes spirits will come through, so I knew that he would probably come through for me. The man just always does. I would be shocked if he didn't. And
Yeah.
he's at least an ancestor I knew would come through. So like I intentionally booked this, wanted to see what needed to come through for me, but I knew that he would probably come through. So it's very interesting. Like these things were set up in sequence, and the way that I received the information was for me at the right time in the right moment. And like when I think of my dad, I was referring to the Twilight Zone when I sent this emoji because like he loved the Twilight Zone. We watched the Twilight Zone all the time, and so, like, you think of the Twilight Zone, doo 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 with the fucking
Yeah.
spiral, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it was a connection back to him because that's why I sent it, right? But it held so much more depth, and, like, I needed to interpret and sit with it in my own time. But it's really cool that I've had multiple things shown to me, whether they needed to, and I think that it is this simple, like we talked about it in our last episode, like the simplicity of like, we don't need to go out and start. Sometimes there are moments in my life where I'm like, am I really reading into this too deeply or what? But I've learned that that's not self trust. When I feel that it holds a meaning to me, there I will receive confirmation that this is what this is meant to show to me or reveal to me, or I'm meant to understand it, or interpret it. And like I know that I'm here to take concepts and bridge them and then talk about them. And so like whatever, I was gifted this knowledge and I needed to share it. And so it came to me in the right time. And now that I've continued to see it and talk about it, more and more keeps being revealed to me. So I just keep getting those confirmations. Like So I think to like trust, who knows? But like for this, I needed to know it and I'm happy to share it. And I think that the more I learn and discuss it, the more I know how to use it. Like
Yes.
how do I use this gift and this symbol and this movement and this energy that's been shown to me?
I think that's the beauty of a tribe. Like, we're not meant to be isolated, we're meant to have communication because, without this dialogue just between you and I, like, I wouldn't have expanded the way that I could see it being, and I'm getting chills all over my back. That's part of the learning, right, is having that conversation, sharing with each other, and we're talking about something as simple as a spiral.
Spiral.
Like,
Yeah.
like but there's such a cool energy to that and sharing what it means to you and how you see it, and then it helped me see things a little bit differently. But without that dialogue, we don't grow, we don't change, and I truly think that's what we're meant to be and do here is help each other grow and change, and
Yeah.
that's through our voice, right?
Mhm.
That's how we communicate right now. That's through our energy. So I think that's a really powerful message that I just wanted to share before we ended.
I love that.
So, all right, people. Well, watch out for those spirals. I think you're all going to
Yeah.
start seeing them now.
Yeah, it's gonna be everywhere.
It's going to be everywhere. All right. Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.